Hello there, this is DragonLoon, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be playing Space Engineers, and we will be going to the solar system of DragonLoon 2885. I used to play this game quite a lot, like it, because you can pretty much build almost anything, and I want to bring you along with us. So, let's go ahead and get on in here. All right, so here we are. I had set this up with the basic settings before starting this recording, so I haven't actually gone down to any of the planets or anything. Now, we have several different ways that we can start. My personal favorite is either the space pod or the Earth-like drop pod. I have tried the moon drop pod, but I'm not that big of a fan of it. It's a little bit easier in a way than the Earth-like drop pod for getting out into, out of the atmosphere, I guess you could say. But you do have to worry about oxygen and all of that. Whereas the Earth-like drop pod, obviously, you don't. So let's go ahead and get on here. I'm going to go to the Earth-like drop pod, and we will go down. All right, here we are. And let's just get out into third person so we can see what's going on. And it looks like we are actually being dropped down in a fairly reasonable and decent area. Looking really, really good. All right, there we go. So let's go ahead and jump on out. Oh, stay in first person. All right, so the first thing that we are going to want to do is we are going to want to go in and, not get in there. We want to open up the inventory. There we go. Maybe we do have to do that from sitting in the seat. All right, let's try this. There we go. All right, we want to go ahead and take these out because, yeah, we won't need them. All right, next, in our O2 generator, we have some bottles. We want to go ahead and grab those because we're going to be using the hydrogen a lot because that is what is going to power our jetpack. All right. Now, the unfortunate thing is that we only start with a survival kit, and the survival kit can only take stone, produce it into ingots, which also produces gravel. Or no, it takes gravel and takes stone, turns it into gravel and ingots, where we can then produce our resources. And we can't produce very much. We can just basic steel plates, solar sails, motors, things like that. So we're going to want to upgrade rather quickly. Well, in order to do that, we need to get stone. So let's take out our drill. And is there anything around here? No, there isn't. Now, I have a mod called Ore Collector, or Easy Ore Collector, which automatically collects up the resources whenever you're drilling, which is really awesome. When I discovered it, I loved it. Because before you had to hold down the F key and, you had floating resources around, and now you don't. So let's go over here a bit away from our pod. Down here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my GPS, and I'm actually going to create a new waypoint, and we're going to call this starter hole. That way we know where we started digging whenever we have to go back and deposit. So, all right, let's crouch down and start drilling. Now, if you're new to Space Engineers, one thing that I do want to point out, which I'm not sure if a lot of people have pointed out or not, the surface here, when you crouch down, which is the only way you can drill, doesn't give you very much, and let me open up the right panel, very much stone per drop. So what you want to do is you want to try and get down away from the grass looking area as quick as possible, because the further down you get, the more stone per how do you call it, per rock that you actually get. So let's get a full backpack here. All right. Now, another mod that I have that I highly, highly recommend is a mod called Easy Inventory. And what that allows you to do is, as long as you have something other than the drill, you can hold down the shift button and right click. If you alt right click, it will automatically deposit everything in your inventory except for tools and equipment, such as the bottles, the rifles, and your tools, into whatever container you're targeting at the time. So now that we have some stone, let's go ahead and get in here into our production. And the way that you can queue up multiple items is either through Shift, Control, or Shift and Control. So if you just click the item once, it queues up 1. If you hold Shift and queue it up, it queues up 100. If you hold Control and queue up the item, it queues up 10. But if you hold Control and Shift at the same time and click it, it queues up 1,000. So let's just queue up about 10,000, because we're going to need a bunch of this, because this is the only way, I should say queue up 10,000 ingots, because this is the only way we are going to get said ingots. Now that we have those processings, and we want to keep the ingots right here up front, because the AI works in a way where whichever item is in this first block will be attempted to be processed first. And if, like right here, there's missing items, it goes on to the next one and the next one and the next one until it doesn't have any more ingots or space available. So now that we have some ingots, the first thing we are definitely going to want to do is queue up a bunch of steel plates. And what this will do is it will automatically pull the ingots that are processed and use those to make the steel plates. So now that we have some steel plates processing, let's go ahead and grab those. And we're going to come out here and we're going to start building a small base. So what we want to do is we want to grab our, not survival kit. Why did that change to survival kit? Alrighty. Okay, drag that down to spot 4. Let's try this one more time. There we go. All right, we want to grab our armor blocks. And it is already orientated in such a manner that the top is level with the horizon, which is really great. Now, I have a really weird OCD. I like building in the cardinal directions, so whoops. All right. Sorry about that. It was being weird. All right, so we're going to place this down. Now, if you place it down up here in the air, it's just going to drop down and it's not going to be attached to anything. What we want to do is we want to place it down where it's actually in the ground, because that is going to make it a station, which means that it won't move and we can actually build quite easily off of it. So let's make a 3x3 foundation. Oh, come on. There you go. All right. Now that we have that foundation, the very first thing we are going to need, if I can hop up here, is we're going to need some power. Now, one of the settings that I set on this solar system when setting it up was the daytime. The daytime is 24 hours, which means it is 48 hours from sunrise to sunrise. So we can use solar panels to power our base, which will be really awesome. But right now, what we want to do is we want to actually use wind turbines, because they're going to provide enough power and they're easier to build than the solar panels, because solar panels require solar cells, which take a lot of materials. So let's go ahead, and what we want to do is we want to build out a ways from our base. So let's just come out here, and wind turbines are most effective when they are, when they are 10 blocks above the surface. And I personally like building a turbine tower, I guess you could call it, where there are 4 turbines on their side and 1 on top. So what we want to do is we want to go straight up and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then on this 10th one, we're going to have to extend out by 1, because wind turbines are 3x3. And then we're going to need another one right there. So let's grab our wind turbines. And we need interior plate for that. All right. So let's come down here to our... Nope, that's our O2 generator. We want that, and go production and interior plate, and we will queue up a couple of those. And it looks like we need more iron, which means we need more stone. So let's go digging again. All right, and we have some interior plates. So let's select our wind turbines, and we will put 1 on top there. All right, so now we have our 5 wind turbines. The one thing that I forgot to add here was some batteries, but that's okay. Another mod that I have, which I love, is a mod by the name of LWTS version 6.4. And what that does is it adds tiered versions of everything. And it's not quite as overpowered as some people might want to assume, because let's take, for example, the alloyed armor blocks. In order to produce these, you need lightweight alloy tubes and alloy plates. Well, you can't produce those in a normal assembler. You have to make a one of the tiered assemblers. And I believe those are made in tier 3, I think. And in order to make the tier 3 assembler, as you can see, you need tier 3 assembly motors. Well, you can only make those in the tier 2 assembler. You can't make them in a normal assembler. You can make the tier 2 assembler motors in the normal assembler. So it's very, in my opinion, balanced, but at the same time, you know, it gives you that extra oomph. For instance, your enhanced drills at tier 5 drill, you can the radius around the drill head is really big, which I kind of like, but it does take quite a bit to get up there, and the resources required to make the tier 5 motors can be quite expensive. And like when you look at your engines, your thrusters, you have tier 6 thrusters and you have tier 7 thrusters, but if you look at the tier 7 thruster right there, you need a legendary motor. Well, the way that the person who created this mod did it, you can't make the tier 7 motors. You can only find them by destroying drones and pirates and things like that, by looting them. So while the legendary atmospheric thruster or the legendary thrusters are really, 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 really super powerful, it's almost impossible to make them because you can't make the motors. So, but back to what I was saying about the batteries. We are going to... We can't make the tiered batteries. Eventually we will want to, because they store more power than the normal batteries. So for now, we'll just grab the normal battery. And we will fly down here. And we need more steel plates. And we'll put down 2, 3, 4. We'll put down 5 batteries. What that will do, especially when we switch over to solar, is it will, once the sun goes down, we'll still have some power to be able to power our facility. Now, we don't necessarily have to worry about that with the wind turbines because they are constantly producing energy. But if you build this structure in space where you are using solar panels, you definitely want to include the batteries. So, all right. Now, back to, back to our basic base. The next thing we want to do is we want to put down this basic assembler. And this basic assembler has one access point. If I rotate this around, you can see that it only has one access point. And we want that. We're eventually going to be putting in a small cargo container. And we want that to be pointing at the small cargo container. So no matter where we put it, we want to be able to have access to that small cargo container at that access point. I personally am going to put the small cargo container right there. So we'll put the basic assembler right there. Eventually, we'll be switching this out for a regular assembler and a bunch of them. But for right now, the basic will go there. We'll then need our basic refinery. Now, the basic refinery has 2 access points. So as long as you have one of those access points pointing towards the assembler, you'll be just fine. Now, let's hold down Control, hit the number 2 to bring up another hotbar, I guess you could call it, and go in and type in cargo, grab the small cargo containers, and put that down like that. Now, we're just doing this to get them in place because we still need to build all of these. So let's take a look at what we need. If you look over here, we need a total of 60 steel plates, 40 construction components, 10 motors, 4 displays, 80 computers, and an additional 20 steel plates. Now, we don't need that second set of steel plates to make it functional. We just need it to, if we want to put this up to 100% durability. So, one thing that we can do is we can come over here to our survival kit, go into the production, let's go out of here, hit G, and down here we have our build planner. Now what we can do is we can queue up those items And then when we're looking at this, you can see that you can press the middle mouse button to withdraw the components on the build queue. And if you hold down, I believe it's Alt. No, I think it's Control. Control and hit the middle mouse button. It will queue up all the resources needed to make what's on the build planner. So let me show you how that's going to work. We'll go into our build planner. We'll go basic. All right, we want a basic assembler, and we hit the middle mouse button to queue that up. We want a basic refinery. Again, queue it up on the middle mouse button. And then we also want a small cargo container. All right. Now, control middle mouse button. And that didn't work. Why didn't it work? Cannot withdraw. Oh. All right. Sorry, it's not control. It's shift to add it to the production menu. Now, as you can see, we can't produce any of this because we need a total of 1.3 kilograms of iron ingots, and we have plenty of nickel ingots and silicone wafers. So we need more iron ingots. Well, again, the only way we're going to do that is to get more stone. So let me mine some more stone and I'll be right back. All right, so I have a decent amount of components made up. So what we want to do is we want to keep clicking the middle mouse button until we have everything that we need. Now, the one thing that we won't be able to get is the small steel tubes. And that is needed for our small cargo container. You can make the small steel tubes in the basic assembler, but you can't make it in the survival kit. So we're going to keep having that issue. We also... Oh, it's still making interior plates. Okay. So now all we have left to make is the small steel tubes. So what we want to do is we want to weld up the basic assembler and the basic refinery. Now, one great thing about the basic refinery is it is more efficient at turning ore, in this case stone, into ingots, which means that you get more ingots per kilogram of ore. So, unfortunately, we won't be able to use these until we turn on some power. So what we want to do is we want to open up our build menu again and go and type in wind, if I can do it one-handed. All right, and we want to add 5 wind turbines to the build queue, and we want to go ahead and delete that cargo container because we don't need it right now. So if we hold shift and middle mouse button, it adds it to the build, to the production menu. Unfortunately, it will literally queue up the items needed for one and then the items needed for the second one, rather than combining like items together. And some YouTubers out there, such as Rich from Dragon Nation Gaming, doesn't like that feature, and I have to agree with him. It just makes more sense to combine them all. However, the in my personal opinion, and this is just me, the convenience of utilizing that build queue or even the easy inventory system, which will allow you to pull the components needed for whatever item you have in your hand directly from the inventory, or even queue them up by holding control or shift, I think it is. That convenience is kind of outweighs the issue of having to go in and rearrange everything. And it looks like we need more iron ingots again. So let me go do some more mining. And if this is your first time ever playing Space Engineer, please be aware you will be mining a lot. Until you are able to make yourself a mining ship, or some other way of autonomously harvesting resources, or until you've built up a lot of resources, you're going to be mining a lot. And then even after you mined a bunch of resources, if you're doing a lot of building, you're going to be mining a lot. It's just one of the aspects of the game. All right, so we have everything. So let's go ahead and hit that middle mouse button. And it looks like we are... All right, there we go. We have everything. So let's fly up and start building our wind turbines. All right, so we have our wind turbines going. And if I actually go back up there and hit Control, it brings up what's called Build Vision. And Build Vision allows you to make changes to blocks, such as if we come down here, let's try this. So if you hold down Control and press your middle mouse button, you can make changes to this component rather than hitting the K key to go into your control panel. The Build Vision just makes things a whole lot easier. So back up to our wind turbines. If we hold down the control, we can bring up Build Vision, and each wind turbine is producing 400 megawatts. Excuse me, 400 watts. And we have 5, so that is 2 megawatts. Is it 2 megawatts or 2 kilowatts? I think it's 2 kilowatts. Yeah, it's 2 kilowatts. So we have 2 kilowatts. Now, that is important because if we go over here and grab one of our button panels and hit K, the basic assembler has a max required input of 280 kilowatts. Wait, what? Oh, okay. We are currently producing only 400 megawatts because it is only going to produce what we absolutely need. It can produce 400 kilowatts, which means we can produce 2 megawatts. All right, so our basic assembler at max input requires 280 kilowatts, which would be 1 wind turbine. But our basic refinery requires 330 kilowatts, which would be 1 turbine itself. So having 5 wind turbines means we can power all of this regardless, as well as once our batteries are fully made, we can start charging those. All right, so now that we have our basic refinery made, we can transfer everything out of here and put it into here, or at least what we can. And I have a mod that gives me more ingots out of our refineries. And so the basic refinery takes stone and turns it not only into nickel, silicone, and iron and gravel, but it also gives us minute amounts of other items, such as uranium, which cannot be found on planets or moons, as well as platinum, which cannot be found on planets, or at least not very easily, and gold, which is somewhat more difficult to come by. So, let's go over here to our basic assembler, and we will deposit everything else into the basic assembler. And if we go into the basic assembler and the production, you can see we can now make canvas, as well as detector components, large steel tube, metal grids, medical components, radio control components. We can make a whole lot more. Let's just put it that way. And we need this to make the small steel tubes. So let's queue up 400 of those, just because we're going to need them anyways. Now, in order to make those, we're going to need more iron ingots. So let's go mining it. All right. Now, I just got a warning from my suit saying energy low. And that is because your tools use up your suit power. Now, the other thing you want to be aware of is in an environment such as this, where, it's a nice warm environment and the oxygen is very high, your suit isn't going to use as much power just idling around. Whereas someplace like in space, where it is, absolute zero and there's no oxygen, your suit is going to use more energy at idle because it's trying to keep you warm. Same with if you're in a really, really hot environment, your suit is going to use more energy because it's trying to keep you cool. Now, in order to recharge your suit, you need to go to a medical bay, sit in a seat, a powered seat, or go to a survival kit. If you go to a medical bay or a survival kit, you just aim at the display screen and hold down F. The survival kit doesn't refill your health, oxygen, hydrogen, and power very quickly, not like the medical bay, but it works in a pinch. All right. So, we have a full load of stone, and as you can see, it's giving us all kinds of nice goodies and plenty of iron. Unfortunately, the iron is not getting over to our basic assembler just yet because the cargo container is not finished. So, it can't automatically transfer from the refinery to the assembler. So, let's grab that iron. We'll go ahead and grab the nickel and silicone because we know we're going to need that. And we will just put all of that in there. And now we are building small steel tubes. We have more than enough to finish the cargo container. And there we go. Now, if you open this up, you can see all selected cargo containers, especially if you show connected inventories. And as the assembler needs more items, it will just pull directly from the refinery now. So, that is all good to go. And what we can now do is open up our G menu, remove that small cargo container again, find our small batteries, and put 5 on there. And then add that to the queue. All right, so we have all our batteries finally made. We have our wind turbines, and as you can see, it was a really good thing we went with the wind turbines first rather than the solar panels, because the sun has already set. That, I believe, means that we started on the wrong side of the planet, but that's okay. All right. So now that we have our basic assembler and basic refinery set, we want to upgrade these to the regular refinery and the regular assembler. One great thing that we can do is we can go into our production, and I guess we can't queue up the blocks through here. But what we can do is we can build... Ooh, that needs cobalt. And our refinery is not giving us cobalt. However, we are getting a lot of gravel. And what is gravel useful for? Well, it is used in the production of, I believe it's reactor components, which we don't need right now, and that just means that gravel is a useless component. Now, another mod that I have, yes, this is a very heavily modded playthrough, another mod that I have found that I really, really enjoy is our gravel sifter. And what this does is it takes gravel and it turns it into other useful ingots. So that was not what I wanted to do. Put that there. And grab our small cargo container and put that back there. Gosh darn it. All right. So what I want to do is I want to take our gravel sifter, hold shift and right click, and it queued up one gravel sifter if you look up there from easy inventory. All right. Now that we have our gravel sifter functional, at least, if we go up here, you can see that it's grabbed all that gravel and it is giving us basic ore that our basic refinery is then pulling in and turning into ingots. Now, unfortunately, the basic refinery cannot process silver, gold, platinum, or uranium ore. But that's okay because it is giving us what we need, which is the cobalt ore. And if you look over here, you can see that we've already got one metal grid made. We just need a little bit more iron for this last metal grid. So we need a little bit more stone. All right, there we go. Now we are at 100% and we have everything that we need set up. Except now we need to upgrade to the regular refinery and the regular assembler now that we are processing everything that we can. So let's open up our build menu and go assembler. And we will go ahead and put that down in slot 5 and replace the basic assembler. And then we will go refinery and replace the basic refinery. And we will queue up one refinery and one assembler and take a look at what we need. And again, we are going to need, wow, that is a lot of steel plate that refinery needs. Holy crow. All right. Anyway, let's go ahead and combine all of these down into individual stacks. And we need a lot of iron. All right. And as you can see, the basic refinery is not processing that stone all that quickly. So that's another reason why we want to upgrade to the regular refinery because it processes much quicker. Eventually, we're going to actually upgrade to the tier 5 refiners because that small amount of stone would have been instantaneously gone in the tier 5. But again, we can't get there just yet. Don't worry, we will. For now, however, we need to do a lot more mining. All right, so we are still working on producing small steel plate, or excuse me, producing regular steel plates. But I looked up and we have enough steel plates to get the regular refinery going right now. So what we want to do is we want to go in here to our basic refinery and we want to turn that off because that's going to stop trying to process the ore. And the reason that we want to do that is because we then want to over here show connected inventory, and we are going to look for our small cargo container, and we're just going to take all of the all the ore that's in the basic refinery and move it over to the small cargo container, and then we're going to do that for the ingots as well. The reason being is we are then going to take our grinder and grind this down. Now I just realized that if we look at the footprint of our regular refinery, it is a 2x2 when it's stood up on its end, and the basic refinery is only 1 block. So unfortunately, we have to transfer everything over to our cargo container from even the gravel sifter and grind that down. And let's go ahead and place that there. All right, so then we grab that, the refinery, pull out as much resources as we can, and we want to rotate this around. And if you look, there is an access point there, an access point on the other side, an access point on that end, and an access point on that end, as well as oh, no, that's it, I believe. Right there. So there's a few access points that we can utilize. What I think we want to do, how do I want to do this? We're going to lay it down like that. And the reason that we're going to put it down like that is because we can then grab our gravel sifter and connect it right there to that access point. And then we can add more refineries off to the either side as we get them. All right. And there we go. That is processing. And as it gets items, it will clear out and dump into... Whoa, overshot. Dump into our refinery, which the refinery will then process all of this down eventually. It does process stone and iron ore and cobalt ore, or stone and iron, a lot quicker than, say, cobalt. So eventually when we do end up building our main permanent base, because right now this is just a temporary base, we'll actually want to build multiple refineries and dedicate one set of refineries to each ore type. That way it is processed very rapidly. Rich from Dragon Nation Gaming has a blueprint out there that is a let's see if I can pull it up. Yes, I can. All right. So somewhere in here Rich has a blueprint which is on his workshop. Feel free to check it out. It's called the DNG Production, and it has 24 assemblers and 10 refineries and a bunch of batteries and everything like that. And essentially what you do is you put ore in one side, and it gets refined down into ingots that then can be used to be produced. And he created this, which I love this setup, or the idea anyways. I'm not sure if I like the setup too much, simply because it doesn't leave room for expanding out the number of refineries for increased production. But the basic concept has given me a lot of ideas on what to do. Which is the whole purpose of this game, is to get ideas and try them out. But that's essentially what I'm going to eventually do, is I'm going to use sorters to sort the ores into their own refineries or own sets of refineries. And I like doing sets of 3 refineries for each ore type, except for stone. There's more stone refineries. And in later episodes, we'll get into the reason why, because there's another mod that I like using that is going to be producing a ton of stone. I also have taken Rich's vertical miner here that he created to mine ice for hydrogen generators, and I've adapted it to mine stone because I use the gravel sifters. So, all right, back to what we were doing about the assembler. All right, so it looks like that we do have all the components needed to make our regular assembler. So let's grind this down like that. And unfortunately, we have a bunch of components. Can I pick those up this way? No, I cannot. Now grab our assembler, and we need to rotate this around like that. All right, yay, we have our assembler. Now, if you go in here, you can see that you can queue up specific blocks, and by clicking on this block, it will say the camera, it will queue up all the components needed to make a camera in the large block. Same with the small block. But we can also make tools. And it looks like we can make our elite tools too. So let's queue up one of each elite tool. Now, what's great about those regular tools is it took me good 2-3 minutes or about a minute to a minute and a half to completely fill up on stone. With this, you fill up a lot quicker, and it utilizes less energy from your suit. So the elite tools are much better. We need a scout pod. And I think what we're going to do is we are going to make our own. So what we need to do is we need to get... All right. Sorry about that. Things were being goofy. I'm not sure why. So let's extend our platform out a ways like that. Then we're going to grab a landing gear. All right. So starting from here, we are going to build up a few and then build out. Now, if you're not using the gravel sifter, the first vehicle that you want to make will actually be a wheeled rover, because you can make the wheels a whole lot easier. However, because I have the gravel sifter, I can make thrusters easier than if I didn't have the gravel sifter, where I would have to go and hunt down all the resources, or even use the respawn pod as like a scout and drill ship. Which, if you want to find out how to do that, there are many tutorials on how to do that. I am by far not an expert on it. I have done so in the past, but with the use of the gravel sifter, I no longer have to. So let's get back into building this craft. All right, folks, so we have all of our atmospheric thrusters completed, and that is pretty much our scout ship. What we can do is we can go in here, go to our control panel, and click on the ore detector and jack that all the way up to 250 meters. Unfortunately, for a small ship, that is as far as the ore detector will go. But that's okay, that's all we really need. The next thing that we can do for the time being is we can put in a couple of conveyor tubes here, like that, and then put a connector on. All right, so we have a couple conveyor tubes and a connector. Now, the reason that we have this connector is so that, well, obviously so we can connect up this ship, but because it's just a scout ship, at least for right now, we need that connector to be able to charge the ship. So let's disconnect this, and we need to see if we have enough power. Now, the best way to do that, that I've discovered through watching other YouTube videos, is to go up, forward, and then left or right, all at the same time. So if we go up, forward, and left and right, we are almost maxed out. So we are probably going to eventually want to add bigger batteries or another fuel type. So the next thing we need to do is we need to put the camera on our menu by going into G and select camera and then view. And the reason that we want to do that is so that we can go into our camera, and as we go down, ooh, we may not need large thrusters on this thing. But we definitely need some more forward and back thrusters. What we're going to do is we are going to dock yeah, I'm going to have to add some more thrusters to this. Oh, before we do that, we need to add the connector switch lock to our hotbar so that we can lock up. There we go. And then if we go into our control and go battery, we can select one of the white batteries because the orange batteries are on the station itself, and we can see that it will be fully recharged in 10 hours. Wow. And that is because our batteries on our ship are powering everything else. So what we want to do is we want to select the white batteries, change the charge mode to recharge, and now we can see that they will be recharged in 11 minutes. All right. So we have our little scout. we have a very basic base. I think we'll call it good for there. Next time, however, we will go on the hunt for an ice lake with a nice cliffside, because that will be where we build our base, and we're going to build our main base inside the cliff. But for now, if you enjoyed this, please leave me a like, as it does help me know what to continue to create content on. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more of this really awesome game content. Until next time, stay frosty out there.